What is basically nature? What is Noah? What is Avraham? Have you ever seen those people who are really so much into time, into nature? Day is day, night is night. When you ask them a favor, what do? They measure if they can do it or not, right? When you ask them a favor, they look at the clock. What time is it? It's sweet, right? No, it's not so sweet. Because they're so finite. Kabbalah, they're finite. I want you to know the deepest depths, Mamish. What is to be real? To be real means to be absolute infinite. What's a good friend? A good friend is somebody who is infinite for you, who doesn't measure. If you ask me a favor and I'm thinking, can I do it or not, I'm already off. Forget it. What is the holiness of us Jewish people? The holiness of us Jewish people is that we never measure. You know, the Talmud says, when God wanted to give the Torah on Mount Sinai, he asked the nations of the world. You want the Torah? They start asking, what does it say? What do we have to do? And what time do we have to do it? God says, forget it. You're not the ones. God asks us, do you want to take the Torah? We start yelling, we'll do and we'll listen. And the man who says, we said we'll do before we even listen. He says, I don't know what you're going to tell me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right? What does it mean? I'm infinite, right? I'll tell you something, I'm a very straight guy, right? I meet this girl, I love her very much. First I ask her her name, her mother's name, her father's name, where she keeps her money, where her father keeps her money, what school did she go to, what time she benches licht, where does she buy her meat, right? Which cookies does she eat? You know, I tell you, I once had this boy, the first question he asked the girl if she listens to music in the 3 weeks, you know. And what else? It's all good questions, right? Would you marry such a guy? He said, please, you know, call my mother-in-law and she'll give you my number, right? Crazy. When you like someone very much, you don't ask questions, right? I don't know your name, I don't know who you are, I don't know what kind of cookies you eat, but I just love you very much. Something else. I want you to know Noach. You see what it is. The Mashiach is coming. Everything is infinite anyway. I want you to open your hearts to it. What's the difference between me asking somebody I love very much, give me an apple, or going to a store buying an apple? I go to a store or buy an apple, I get one apple, and I pay for it. When I ask somebody I love very much, give me an apple, basically I'm asking for heaven and earth, for heaven and hell. But they're giving me an apple. But this one apple is mamish infinite. An infinite apple. You see, the Mashiach is coming. The Mashiach is coming. Everything will be like really measured. It'll be day, it'll be night, it'll be morning. It'll be one apple. But Gewalt, it'll be so infinite. You know, when you have a business meeting for 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. When you love somebody very much, you can meet them for 5 minutes, and it's 200 lifetimes. So, Avraham Noach thought, Noach's whole idea is, God wants everything to be measured. So God could not make a covenant with Noach to redeem the world, to bring the Messiah. No, you're a cute man. You mean well. I really want the world to exist. And I really want an apple to be apple and an orange. and Shabbos is Shabbos and Wednesday is Wednesday. It's true. And on that is Noach is a Gewalt expert, right? But God wants more than that. And that more is only Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu who jumped for God into the fire. And here I want you to know. The Talmud says that in Israel there was no flood. There was no flood in Israel. What does it mean? You know that Israel is the only country in the world which is still the way it was when God created it. The depth is awesome. You know, because of the people of the flood, the very earth became perverted. There was something about the earth. The whole world became perverted a little bit. And I want you to know, at that time of the flood, there was nobody living in Israel. Nobody was there. And the Medrash says God was hiding it from the world because God wanted to give it to Abraham. So until the flood, like miraculously, nobody lived there. After the flood, Shem went there. And then a lot of people came after that, which was already okay. But the land of Israel is really like Noach's level. On the level of nature, it is really the way God wants it to be. So on one hand, the land of Israel is Mamish Noach's land, because this is really his dream, that everything should be the way God wants it to be. But there's one thing missing. It is Mamish infinite. Infinite. And you know what Israel is all about? It's the headquarters of prayers. It's the headquarters of prayers. And here I want you to open your hearts to it. You want to know something? I know, I was once sitting on a plane. I met one of the richest people in the world. I need $5 million for the Moshav. Why doesn't it occur to me to ask this person to give me $5 million? You know why? I don't really have any connection with him. I saw him, I said hello. Mazel tov, good Shabbos, good Yontif, that's it. You know why Noach didn't feel that he can pray to God? He wasn't close enough to God. If you're mamish close to God, say, Master of the world, I'm just a human being, but God, I'm begging you so much. God, am I begging you? Want you to know something on a simple level? Last week's Thursday, a mamish had to come to New York, right? Anybody in the world who tell me, can you stay another day? I say, no, I can't because Friday I want to travel. I'll have to be in New York by Shabbos. I'm leaving Thursday. There's only two people who could change my mind as my two kids, right? And I'm not crazy. Let's say I'm a little bit a responsible person. Not too much, but a little bit. Imagine somebody else's children would have asked me. I'd say, I'm sorry, I have to go. You know what my kids can ask me? Because God is so close, right? So close. I just want you to keep your heart open because in 2 seconds I want to know the Torah from Izbitzer and then you'll see the connection. The deepest question in my mind is always, okay, so we know that the people, the generation of the flood, is the generation God wanted to give the Torah. If you remember? The 40 days of rain were the 40 days which Moses was on Mount Sinai later on. And everybody knows that the generation of the flood came back and their fixing was that they became slaves in Egypt. Because their sin was they thought I can do whatever I wanted. So their fixing was that they were slaves in Egypt. What's a slave? I can't do anything I want to. I can't do anything I want to. Just the opposite. So after they fixed what they had to fix, and God took them to Mount Sinai. But now, you know something, Mamish, when it rained for 40 days, and after that, Mamish, God opened, it was a flood, right? Not raining, flood. I want you to know, when God spoke to us on Mount Sinai, again, it was raining, it was not a flood. And the deepest question I have in my heart, the Torah which came down in the flood, when are we receiving this Torah? So I have the Torah from the 40 days of rain, right? Because eventually we were slaves in Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Mount Sinai for 40 days, and he received the Torah which God wanted to give the people of the flood. What happens to the flood? You know what the flood is? Infinite. Infinite. You know the Torah I have? It says exactly you have to bench 5:25. Shabbos is over 6:30. The tefillin have to be so big. Tzitzis have to be 4 corners. This is all 40 days raining. Where's the Torah of the flood? Infinite, infinite, infinite. When am I receiving this Torah? And here I want you to know something else. This is the deepest depths. Why does my being a Jew depend on my mother? What's wrong with my father? You know, Rabbi Schnitzler suddenly discovered that the father's also not so bad, and he decided the father's also good, right? It's cute, right? But Nebuch, you know, I don't even think he can read Hebrew properly. I have nothing against him. But for 4,000 years we know what a Jew is, and Rabbi Schnitzler discovered it's not so. If some of you remember we're learning it, it's right in this parsha. And here I want you to open this other sefer here, the other page. And this is the deepest depth of the Torah. And I'm sure that some of you maybe were learning it before. And this I have to learn every word. And here just listen to it. If God forbid, without learning it in depth, you can get the most crazy idea about it. You know what the craziest thing in the world is? Listen to me. Abraham and Sarah go down to Egypt, and Sarah is very beautiful, and you have to realize Sarah was about 80 years old, maybe older. And there were a lot of beautiful women in those days, especially Egypt, you know. And Pharaoh can't believe it, right? The most beautiful woman of his life. And he grabs her, and that's it. So Avraham knows we have to go down to Egypt because there's a famine. He says to Sarah, do me a favor, don't tell I'm your husband, because it'll be bad for me, just tell you're my sister. What does that mean? That means Avraham is really a coward, right? He's afraid to say I'm a husband, and he thinks, yeah, I don't care if she'll have a little geschäftel with Pharaoh, right? As long as I'm alive. How does it sound to you? This is our father Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was jumping in the fire for God. I'm sure he'd jump for his wife Sarah in the fire a million times a second. Sadly enough, I have seen a lot of, I don't want to say bad, great rabbis giving speeches, and they say Avraham Avinu was a coward, right? So God had nobody else to choose but Avraham Avinu. Stupid, right? Listen what it says. And this is the deepest depths. I'm reading Mama Sheni. The Izbitzer says there are 2 kinds of love in the world. The love between a husband, between a man and a woman is, so to speak, it happened because they knew each other and they know each other. Then but then born with closeness as brother and sister. Saddest thing in the world is husband and wife can, God forbid, can stop. You can never stop being a brother and a sister. Husband and wife is maybe a more exciting love. Brother and sister is not such an exciting love. But in the meantime, can't stop. What is the deepest depth of love, if it's both? The deepest depth is if it's mamish so deep, like a brother and a sister, can't stop, and it's mamish by very nature. And it is also fire like husband and wife. He says between us and God there are also two kinds of love. There's a love between me and I'm reading it. והנה בבחינת אבא שיש לו שם ישראל למצרול נמצא שתי הבחינות. The love between us and God is also two levels. אבל מקריאס היא אבא מסיבס אבוידס והבירום שישראל וכל יסבוך. Everything I'm doing for God is like I'm marrying God. I'm doing something for God. Each time I do a mitzvah, each time I do something good, I get closer to God. Each time I do something wrong, I get further away. It's like husband and wife. But then there's also something, me and God is like brother and sister. Can't stop. Even if I don't do anything. Amish, go out. ואבא בתלודה הוא בלי שום פעולה בעבודתך, רק כחלק כשמענו. הבוחר בהם בשורש ברגע סרוטן, שמנוסם ערס עבודה. Okay, here I want you to open your heart. What happens to me when God is testing me? What happens to me when I mamish have the test of my life? At that moment, everything I did in my life on good deeds and mitzvahs doesn't count. You know what it means? The test, God is touching, something is touching the deepest depths of me. Not what I did, what I didn't do, what I am. It is so deep, right? And all the mitzvahs I did don't reach there, right? You know, it is possible that I do everything right my whole life, and then God puts a test in front of me, and suddenly it's clear to me that in the inside of my inside, I wasn't really with it. I wasn't with it. You know, sometimes between husband and wife, they love each other very much, and then something happens which is touching so deep, and suddenly they realize we're strangers. Or the other way around. Husband and wife mamish to fight with each other all the time. Just do nothing. And something happens, suddenly realize, Gewalt, they're so close. Right? God is so close. Right? You see, sometimes also between me and God, it is possible I do everything right, and then comes a great test in my life, and I say, damn you, damn the Torah, damn Yiddishkeit, I don't care. That means my whole life I didn't mean it. Or the other way around. I did nothing my whole life. When it comes to test, and so it's clear to me, Gewalt. Gewalt am Eichu. Gewalt. But what is touching me inside is not this love like husband and wife. It's that love which is most natural, right? I didn't do anything about it. It's just there. It is. Okay, now listen to the deepest depth. And I want you really to open your hearts. God is testing Abraham, and God is testing our Holy Mother Sarah.
Yes.
Where? How you doing? Sit down, brother. Okay, friends, just give me attention. Okay, friends. Okay, you remember I was telling you the difference between the test of our Holy Mother Sarah and the test of our Holy Father Avraham. Avraham Avinu's test, Avraham Avinu's test is always to do something. To go to the land, to sacrifice his only son, it's always doing something. Basically, Avraham Avinu is the one who is building this relationship to God, which is on the level of husband and wife. Sarah never had to do anything. Her test was like on the level of not doing anything. If you remember, she didn't have to do anything. Pharaoh says, listen, if you don't want to, I'll kill you. But she didn't do anything. The question is she so holy that evil can't even reach her? Remember, whenever Pharaoh wanted just to get close to her, he couldn't. Because the light was surrounding her was so holy, it just couldn't. It just didn't go. And you see what he says? This holiness did not come from all the good deeds she did. Because all the good deeds in the world you can do and Pharaoh can still knock you off. This deepest depths come from the deepest depths of her soul, what she is. That means you take another woman, she did everything Sarah did, and she is not our mother Sarah. Sarah is not what she did. You understand, friends? Sarah is not what she is. The deepest depths of her neshama. See here, just before I continue to read, just how beautiful this is. Avraham Avinu says to Holy Mother Sarah, from now on, the tests which God are giving you is not husband and wife test. It's a brother and sister test. It's the deepest depths. God wants to test you how by nature, the very, very being of you. You see, I want you to know there are certain things I can force myself to do even if I don't want to. There are certain things where forcing doesn't reach. You know what a test is? A test is that I'm in a position I can't force myself. Unless I really don't want to, I can't go through with it. Friends, it's mind-blowing, the depths.
You mean giving without thinking, is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry, what?
You mean like giving without thinking, somebody is to you, that was your nature
Right.
forces you to give, that's what you're saying.
Anything, you know. Mamash, anything, Mamash, I know what you say, but it encompasses everything in the world, right? It's so deep, right? If I have to force myself, I won't, because I don't want to force myself. You know what he says? There are moments in my life that everything I did in the world doesn't count. It just doesn't count. The question is the deepest, deepest depths, like brother and sister. Are you and God are brothers and sisters? Are you not? I'm not asking if you're married to God. I want to know if you and God are brother and sister. So here Avraham says to Holy Mother Sarah, when we go down to Egypt, I bless you, and obviously Avraham Mamish give us strength. Mamish, from now on, you and God should be brother and sister. Everything holy should be you on the level of brother and sister. It says, it says you cannot rely on the level of husband and wife when it comes to a dangerous place like Egypt, because there The powers of evil are so strong. You can do mitzvahs, you can do good deeds for 2 million years. The forces of evil are stronger. You know, I want you to know how deep this is. If there is 1 billionth ounce of forcing to be holy on soul's level, then the force of evil was taking over. It was absolute, the most natural thing for it to be holy. You hear, Brother Sammy? It is so deep, right? You know, a lot of times in our lives, we come to a situation and you see God is, it's actually a gift from heaven and a test sometimes. That God gives us a chance to look deep into our own soul, to see what level are we on. You know, the Ramban says it is, you know, because it says God is testing you. So all the great rabbis say, a teacher has to test, he doesn't know where I am, right? But God knows where I am. So the Ramban says, yeah, God knows, but you don't know. You don't know where you are, right? I can walk around with a Streimer all my life and say, wow, am I holy? Don't believe how holy I am, right? So when God sees me walking around this way, God says, okay, brother, let's put a little test in front of you. A real heavy test. And if God forbid, yeah, what do you want to say, brother?
I just wanted to ask, is there any way that you can change that inner depth?
No way of going through a test without prayers. And here I want you to know the most mind-blowing thing in the world. Noach had no tests. The relationship between Noach and God was not testing Noach. He told him. The whole idea of testing a human being begins with Avraham. Because Avraham Avinu is mamish, a servant of God. And here I want you to open your heart. This is the deepest depths. This is mamish Izbitzer, Pshischa, and going right through. Noach is a holy man, but he's not a servant of God. Avraham Avinu is a servant of God. A servant of God is getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I want you to know a servant of God knows I cannot live 1 second without praying to God. I cannot live without praying. And friends, I want you, this is mamish mind-blowing, and just really want you to keep your eyes open. I wish I could have, I didn't want to burden you with more papers, but just maybe next time, because this is one Torah which is a person has to carry with him all the time. With her. The first mitzvah in the Torah is to have children. And here I want you to know the deepest depths. Rabbi Shlomo says the deepest depths of the world. The first mitzvah in the Torah is to have children. It's not in my hands. It's not in my hands. You know how I have children? By praying. I have to pray. I want you to know, a few years ago, I gave a gift concert in London, and after the concert, a woman comes up to me. She says to me, I want you to know, Givalda, you're right. She says, I have 2 daughters. One is one of the best tennis players in the world. She married her husband. What happened is also one of the best tennis players in the world. They are healthy like anything in the world. They are married for 20 years. They go to every doctor. What's the matter? It's okay?
I hope so.
Okay, Adam, you're the best. They go to every doctor in the world and nothing happened. She says, my younger daughter is sick since the day she was born. Before she got married, the doctor insisted that she tells her future husband that she can't have children. So she has 10 children. She says, you know why she has 10 children? Because she was praying so much. She was praying so much. So Ablebele Eges has the deepest depths. You think a mitzvah is you do it, you knock it off. If this is the first mitzvah, that means that this is all the mitzvahs in the world. You can't even do a mitzvah. You can't do one good deed without praying. You cannot be a servant of God without praying. Let me ask you something. How do you think our mother Sarah really made it with Pharaoh? I think she was reading the Jewish press and Pharaoh walked in and she says, "Sorry, I'm busy now. Call me later." Gewalt was she praying. And here again, I want you to know the deepest depth. The most natural thing in the world is to pray. You know, when children are born, they're crying. Who taught them how to cry? Who taught them how to breathe? I want you to know there are a few things which God gives the baby to do, which God himself is teaching. God is teaching a baby how to breathe. God is teaching a baby how to pray. You see, Noach was off. Noach's whole Torah is, you have to be natural. What Gewalt you're mistaking? Breathing and praying is the same thing. Rabbi Nachman says, you cannot live 1 second without prayers. You can't live 1 second without prayers. And here I want you to know something. What is really the basic difference between Noach and Avraham? By Noach it says he was a holy man and he had 3 children. It never says he prayed for his children. He had 3 children. Mazel tov. Avraham Avinu is spending 100 years praying for children. Our Holy Mother Sarah spending 90 years. Right? You know what's so special about Israel? You cannot live in Israel without praying every second. The land is, everything is praying. Every split second. You know the old Torah, they say to each other in Israel, don't rely on miracles, keep on praying, right? Maybe in another country, I don't know. Okay, now listen to this. You know where praying is coming from? And here I want you to open your hearts. If I have to force myself for something, I'm not sure if I really want to, but I should do it, and I pray for it. It's not the prayer of Israel, it's the prayer from outside Israel. I want you, Mamish, to open your hearts. What is praying by the holy wall? By the holy wall, I'm not praying for anything I don't really want to. By the holy wall, I'm mamish praying, mamish for that one thing I want with my whole heart. With my whole heart, right? Mamish with my whole heart. So here Avraham Avinu is blessing our Holy Mother Sarah. You know, this relationship on the level of marriage, I can force myself. I can force myself to marry a woman. I can force myself to be a good husband. She can force herself to be a good wife, a good mother. But this brother and sister, you cannot force yourself to be a brother and sister, or you aren't. That means that kind of depth has to come from the deepest, deepest depths of your being. So here says the deepest depths. Avraham Avinu gave over to Sarah this deepest depths of connection. You hear, friends? Avraham Avinu gave over to Sarah this deepest depths of connection of brother and sister. Wow, that's so deep. I'm sorry, what? Okay, what? Okay, so Avraham Avinu gave it over to him, wherever he took it from. Why, it's not good enough for you? No. Who went to Egypt and really had trouble is our Holy Mother Sarah. Everybody knows our Holy Mother Sarah. Come sit down here, friends. While we were in Egypt, we were not doing Torah mitzvahs. We had no Torah, we had no mitzvahs. What kept us going in Egypt? What kept us going in Egypt? Our relationship to God on the level of brother and sister. The deepest, deepest depths. I want you to know what kept us in exile till Mashiach is coming. And here I want you to open your heart so deep. Basically, Yerushalayim is not the headquarters so much of Torah mitzvahs. It is. But it's even more the headquarters of prayers. And you know, in Eretz Yisrael, you plow the field, you live like every human being. Basically, it's the land of brother and sister. You know, Eretz Yisrael was not given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Eretz Yisrael was given to our Holy Father Avraham. One more second, really, just if I get that absolute attention, not so much moving around, please. There is a certain depth inside of me. If whatever I do does not come from the deepest depths of my being, it came a little bit by force, then if I start forcing myself, I fall apart. If I did something with all my heart, all my soul, then nothing in the world can move me. If it's the most natural thing to me. Friends, I can force myself to keep Shabbos, I can force myself to have a beard, I can force myself for anything in the world. But you know when it's showing? When the moment comes where forcing doesn't reach, everything is falling apart. The question is, where are you at then? So he says, Mamish, Avraham and Sarah going into exile. So Avraham says to Sarah, and our Holy Mother Sarah is paving the way, if you remember. Because later on her children are slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And Sarah, our Holy Mother Sarah, was paving the way that Pharaoh should not wipe them out. Pharaoh could not take over Sarah. And Sarah paved the way that the heathen, despite being slaves, they're just working for him, but he cannot touch their soul. Because remember, God took us out from Egypt because our souls were whole. What gave us the strength? So Avraham Avinu is giving over to Sarah this deepest depths of connection to God, deeper than anything in the world. It is the deepest, deepest, deepest non-force. Mamish for real. And you hear, friends, Avraham Avinu gave over to Sarah that from now on, being a Jew depends on Sarah. Because this is the holiness of Sarah. When you grow up, you do mitzvahs. When you're born, what are you? Ah, Holy Mother Sarah knows that. What are you? And you see, our Holy Mother Sarah is going through this test with Pharaoh just because he mamish is. And our Holy Mother Sarah is paving the way until Mashiach is coming. Because some of us are 1,000 times in exile. 1,000 times we are tested. 1,000 times we are tested. And I want you to know before Mashiach is coming, even all the people who are not on the level with God being married, they do nothing for God. They do nothing for Yiddishkeit. Maybe they do nothing for the Holy Land. But then there comes a moment and it's mamish clear to them. Gewalt my Jew. Gewalt, do I love the Holy Land. And you see, when you stand by the holy wall, what is shining into you is not the love like between husband and wife. It's the love between brother and sister. Mamish, you walk away and you realize, Mamish, gewalt my Jew.